Well, we do encourage you, let's get interactive. TV3 Ghana is always available for you, and Dewa Chop Money is always available, so make sure that you are with us every day as you play Dewa Chop Money, and it's Dewa 539 Chop Money. So it also means that by 10 a.m. you get the draw, and subsequently you also get the crediting of your account or your mobile money account as you also dial this number *446#, and then you select option 2 to play Dewa 539 Chop Money, and then you also win 20 times your stake with Direct 1, 40 times your stake with Direct 2, and 400 times your stake with Direct 3. Now, we encourage you to pick from the ranges of the numbers 1 to 39, and then it becomes an easy win for you, so you don't have to wait any longer. Again, the short code is *446#. If you want to have some inquiries made, there's a number also available for you. You can get all that through the website www.dewa-nla.com, and let us know what you think about Dewa 539 Chop Money. And now, as we do that, let me also tell you that we have cash out at the end of the segment. And after this, we'll have sports, and then we have a conversation about young people, especially that we just celebrated over the weekend, the Youth Day, and what is in there for young people. So Bella will be having that conversation. Make sure you stick and stay with us. For the first half of the show, we'll be asking the question whether the BOG crisis you are also monitoring, but what do we have to make by way of the meaning of all the justifications that so far have been made for the $60 billion loss, or billion cedi loss, but more so the ones that we thought that the BOG had some control over, the administrative expenses, etc. We're told that it's in the ranges of 7 billion or so. Subsequently, we have students, Ghanaian students who are on scholarship abroad, apparently being owed several months in arrears. They haven't been paid for several months. Why is the scholarship secretariat treating them that way? Is there any justification for these delays? We speak to the students, and they all also tell us that apparently this has been the practice, but we also get to speak to the registrar for the Scholarship Secretariat, Kingsley Ajimain. He will be speaking to us. We'll pose some questions to him as well and ask him, when is the money coming? Because the students will tell us why they need these stipends as quickly as possible. I have the National Youth Organizer of the NPP right here, Salam Mustafa. Good morning, Salam.
Good morning, Roland.
How are you?
By the grace of God, I'm fantastic.
Right. You seem like a very calm man. I hope we'll have a calm conversation. And frank.
Well, I'm as frank as I can be.
Right.
So
That's
whichever way
relative.
it goes, I always speak my mind.
Thank you very much. And then also we have Eduji Kojo, or is it Kujo?
Kujo.
Okay, Kujo Tamaklo. He's a legal practitioner, and of course we all know him as well. Eduji is a regular. We have chosen Mondays for him, so unless maybe he's busy, he'll be here. How are you, Eduji?
Good morning, Roland.
Today I should have been in smoke,
Salam.
I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have done a smoke combo.
I think this is not fair. I should have been in smoke.
Smoke conspiracy.
Right. Let me say good morning to some distinguished great viewers of ours. You can also watch us live on YouTube, TV3 Ghana. Go search for us, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. So that's a good thing about it. As I always do, let me acknowledge some good people. Kwekweron. Kwekweron is based in Kofodia. Good morning to you, my good brother. Evans Ibn Samba. I wonder whether you sleep, because on every streaming platform, as far as news and current affairs is related, you're always on. Doesn't matter which station, particularly the one that you and I particularly watch. And then Lion. Lion. So how are you, Ni? Adams Rashid Dangobe, good morning to you. Patrick Ngetia, Amoda Hamidu, beautiful, how are you? And then Nelson Kofi Akotia, good morning. Shaibu Mohammed, Johnson Homebu, watching from the UK, we're grateful. Please make sure you share the stream as well, and then give us your comments, we'll read them. Awilo Media, Samuel Inti Ochri, good morning to you. Jacob Kofi Nkonko. Thank you. Dokurugu Frederick. Bongo Weiler. And then also Akasokre Joseph. Sir John Bosco is already here, so we're grateful. Mohammed Muntaka. And many of you, Hamza. And then, of course, Obrimpong Kaba. And then I see Percival as well, Lord. Salam, we're grateful. The Bank of Ghana has been giving us this justification. So we'll quickly sift through, and then we'll come back to the studio and try to make meaning of all justification. So they are on the templates. We'll put them on the screen for you. So the outcome of the structural integrity work was, and that's the justification for them having a line item, 250 spent on a new head office. We're told that the justification is that place is an earthquake-prone area, and of course they need that office as well. And it does not satisfy the full complement of excess strength required for a building to be considered safe for usage. It also means we have to have a new headquarters for GCB and all. The Supreme Court is also at that area. The various high courts are also in that enclave. This also means that in the case of a worst case gravity and wind loading scenario, for example, unusually strong wind, and that's the earthquake justification. Let's go to the next. Unlike the current BOG head office built by Nkrumah in the early 60s, the new head office can stand major earth tremors or earthquakes. Now we'll also tell you what the excerpt of the BOG statement they issued in justification. They said 53 billion was as a result of the losses from direct result of the government's DDEP. So, you know, the whole sum is over 60 billion. So 60. So what they were in control over was 7 billion. Yeah, so they spent 7 billion. Clear mismatch between revenue inflows and expenditure. Credit ratings downgrades block Ghana's access to international capital markets. Yeah. So it means that if we don't go to the capital market, we're in deep trouble. Auction failures led to 500 million loss in 2 months. BOG acted as a loss absorber. We know that is the bailout entity of last resort, we're told. And then there was a 50% haircut, and there was impairment of the markets, etc. Now, there were forex differentials, that's forex losses, and impairment of cocoa board loans. We already know that. And so government, BOG is not insolvent or bankrupt. So how do we interpret all this? Salam.
Roland, good morning to you, my friend and brother, Lawyer Eduji. When this story broke out, I waited to get details of the entire story because it has become quite a norm that immediately stories break out of political mischief, a lot of dust is thrown into the system for the political purposes of it. So I really wanted to understand the various variables that constituted the cost buildup in what the BOG brought. Lo and behold, they did come out with some explanations. And I'm sure that's what you call justification, quite an interesting word. I don't think that they are justifications, but they owed every Ghanaian an explanation, which they have done. If you look at the variables as constituted, you come to the realization that hitherto as probably the minority and the entire NDC wanted us to believe that it was out of some, if you like, sheer recklessness of the Bank of Ghana. But it's not so, because even the IMF had cause to come in and give credence to the explanation that the Bank of Ghana has given, and breaking some eggs on the faces of the minority who ought to have known better because of their strategic position and amount of information that they have. But if you clearly look at the Bank of Ghana and the explanations, their participation in the DDEP clearly accounts for over 50% of the cost buildup. Why? It is important that such a major shakeup in the economic structure especially at the time we were going to the IMF to seek for a program. We needed to restructure our debts. And it was part of the conditions, to engage the IMF. And the Bank of Ghana, being a major player in handling the Ghanaian economy, couldn't have sat back and watched, but also came into the matter and participated in the domestic debt exchange program, which at the end of the day went very, very well, was very successful, and led to Ghana, attaining staff level agreement at a much faster rate than even contemporaries within the African sub-region.
We had to struggle.
No,
well, not
put
the matters
struggle.
into perspective.
No. Maybe that is your word. That is your understanding.
We didn't struggle.
It's not a matter of struggle. Of course, every policy has its challenges.
Okay, so you admit that there was a struggle.
Will not just get up and say that, oh, we agree with this or not. But of course, at the end of the day, reason came to play, and the debt exchange program was very successful. We were able to meet the IMF timelines. The opposition kept saying that they will not be able to achieve this within this time. They said, but we were able to do it because government was determined. We have to work to get ourselves out of the economic difficulties that the world is in. Nobody will come and do it for Ghana. Every country around the globe is struggling to come out of the world crisis. So Ghana cannot sit here and think that it is some people who are coming to do the magic for us. No, we have to work our way out of it. And some of these things are the processes that we have put forward to ensure that we're able to rebound. And clearly, we are getting to the meat of it, how to get back the Ghanaian economy stronger and better, so that the Ghanaian people get the reprieve that they want. At the end of the day, if Bank of Ghana sits aloof and the people of Ghana lose precious investments and all that, it won't cut well. That is why it was important that such a major shakeup, such a major development, they took part, and at the end of the day, it was successful. What other cost elements are in, we can have a look at it. You understand, building of the headquarters, so much has been said. But of course, Roland, a central bank headquarters, it's not just an ordinary building. The software infrastructure that goes into it to secure, the capital and fiscal investments of the country, it's not a joke. So we cannot say that, oh, they don't need it whilst we don't do the appraisals for them.
Who has said they don't need it? Is the question not whether you take the decision that reflects what the central government was preaching at the time?
That is
we
the
were in a period of
being
austerity.
forced down. And exactly the word that you are using reinforces the point. We are in austere period. Nobody takes that away from us. But at the end of the day, securing our investment is as important as getting out of that austerity. If we sit down today, due to technology, somebody can sit in Malaysia, Philippines, wherever, and by the click of a mouse can wipe an entire account clean. You have to make sure that your country is strong enough to resist some of these things. So we should tone down on the political rhetoric, the attempts to score cheap political points every point of the way doesn't augur well for national development. And I hope that it is time that those who ought to know better, especially somebody like a minority leader who should have the full facts available to him, would rather bury his head in the sand and jump on the political bandwagon and throw in a lot of dust just because they feel that let's tear the emotions of the Ghanaian people. We are getting to elections. Let's make the government look bad so that people will go and vote against the government. It is not the purpose. That is not governance. Okay. It is a reprieve, the reprieve we are looking for the Ghanaian people. I am a youth leader. At the end of the day, I look out for the best well-being of young people. I want an economy
You're saying everything is fine?
No. I haven't said that, but I have said that we are in crisis and we are working our way out of it. That are the nice words in saying. Our party has admitted, the government has admitted, We have to work our way out of it.
When did your party talk about it?
Oh, we have had several press conferences. We have mentioned that we stand with the Ghanaian people, and every step of the way we do. I live in Ghana. I don't live anywhere. Whatever difficulties are here, I face, you know, the same challenges that every Ghanaian does. You understand? I don't live on Mars. I live right here. Every day, I am an ordinary...
You mean you of the ruling party, you face the same problems that...
Every day, I buy food.
Okay.
My children attend school. Every single, we go to the market and buy food. I live
Not
in
when
this
you
country.
have notes of dollars in your house.
No, I don't have
It
any.
cannot happen.
I don't have any dollars in my house.
If you have notes of
You
dollars of
understand?
Ghanaian cedis, you
No,
just pick one.
No, don't go that line. The argument is that at the end of the day, the well-being of every citizen in this country is paramount.
Okay.
And it is the responsibility of government to ensure that there's safeguarding of the interest of the Ghanaian.
All right. At the end of the day, if you take a look at the BOG Act as amended, you go to section 36, it is stated there, you don't exceed the previous year's revenue of up to 5%. And we've had difficulties in having that. On all this justification, they tell us that we should also go subsequently with other amendments as well, even the Act. And then you get to find the reason why the Bank of Ghana, as a lender of last resort, had to come in and bail out government. Now the Bank of Ghana itself needs a bailout.
That's not true.
That's the irony of the situation. That we entrusted the destiny of this beautiful country into the hands of a bunch of incompetent, reckless leaders who today, by sheer recklessness, wickedness, corruption, have destroyed veritable institutions of state that we have always relied on. You see, it's important that this matter, we put it in proper perspective. My brother started by saying that we should avoid playing politics with the issues. What really is politics? When you mismanage an economy, that's exactly what politics is all about.
And which is the mismanagement?
And you see, for the first time in over 60 years, our Bank of Ghana is basically bankrupt, insolvent. Now, the Bank of Ghana had to become insolvent simply because duty bearers failed in discharging their responsibility. But you see, I have a tweet from Dr. Bawumia in 2016, and I just want to read it. It says, Ghana's problem is not about resources. Our problem is the efficient and honest management of our resources, unquote. This is Dr. Bawumia in 2016. That notwithstanding, there's a gentleman who doesn't hold official position, but has demonstrated considerable influence in this government.
Who is that gentleman? By
no other person than Gabi Asare Ochri Dakum. And he puts it differently in the conversation about BOG whilst the MPP were in opposition. I'm trying to retrieve the particular tweet. And he makes the point that, and this is a point that he made in 2020, and which had become the beginning of the problem. He questions, what if developed countries, listen carefully, have their central banks printing money for them, what should developing countries do? I mean, put in context. So, right as to 2020, Gabi Asare Dakum had already given a context why the BOG should move into this reckless printing of notes for government of Ghana. And when the then chair of the Finance Committee, the Honorable Atul Forsen, made the point that BOG was technically printing currency or funds for this government, I mean, hell broke loose. That cannot be correct. We are not doing it. This time around, as part of the IMF condition, you know, the IMF has an official within the Bank of Ghana. So now they have to employ the services of Deloitte & Touche to do an audit. Because remember, that Akufo-Addo was not willing to do an audit of COVID fund until he declared that we wanted to go to the IMF. So the IMF demanded an audit. So the Auditor General had to do it. Now, they are forced to do this particular audit as part of the condition to get the second tranche of the money. And that is why these numbers are beginning to come out. Now, when you look at the audit report establishes beyond reasonable doubt that in the year 2020, Bank of Ghana printed 10 billion Ghana cedis for this government. In the year 2021, they did 35 billion Ghana cedis. 2022, they did 42 billion Ghana cedis. So, put together, in the space of 3 years, the Bank of Ghana had printed in excess of 90 billion Ghana cedis to this government.
The justification is that the government needed support.
Now, we'll see whether the justification actually is lawful. If you look at the Bank of Ghana Act, Act 612, the year 2002, Section 30 is very clear on what you should do when it comes to emergency funding of government projects. And just for ease of reference, maybe if you can, do you have the enactment with you?
Yeah,
so that you can just...
Is it the original or the...
Yes, Section 30 of the BOG.
Or the amended act?
No, the substantive enactment. I think I have it here. Section 30. Yes, okay. Section 36. Section 30, subsection 6. It says, in the event of an emergency, the governor, the minister here, the finance minister, and the controller shall meet to decide the limit of borrowing. That should be made by government of Ghana. And the minister shall submit a report on the issue to Parliament within 7 sitting days. That has not been done. So the record will show that the governor, the finance minister, the controller have not even met to take such a decision, because the law requires that they need to have a meeting, decide on such emergency. Remember, that's what they claim they are making, that these are emergency financing to government of Ghana. More importantly, in 2016, the Bank of Ghana Act was amended. And the amendment is Act 918. Now, if you look at Section 16 of the amended Act, and it puts matters in proper perspective, Section 16, emergency liquid assistance. So let me just read. So now the Section 30 that I read earlier is now amended by the insertion of subsection 7. Now, listen to subsection 7. Even 2 first. It said the total loans, advances, purchases of treasury bills, and securities made under subsection 1 shall not at any time exceed 5% of the total revenue of the previous fiscal year. So if you are giving government of Ghana, you are printing for government of Ghana 42 billion Ghana cedis in 1 fiscal year. What it means per the law is that 42 billion should be 5% or less. Now, if you are doing 45 billion in a year or 42 billion in a year, what it means is that the 100% should be what? In excess of 400 billion in your total revenue. Meanwhile, in 2022, total government revenue was just 75 billion Ghana cedis. So what it means is that on the face of it, the Bank of Ghana Act itself has already been what? Violated. In 2021, the 35 billion could not constitute 5% of the total year's revenue, because we did only 57 billion Ghana cedis in the year 2021 by way of tax revenue. So when you put together, the irresistible conclusion is that the Bank of Ghana, the governor, the board, the 2 deputies, and the board have consistently been violating the Bank of Ghana Act. Now, you see, the only reason why those individuals can decide to violate, not once, not twice, but 3 times, you know, following previous year, is that there's a certain level of impunity. That level of impunity
on whose part?
On the part of the governor, the 2 deputies, the board, and duty bearers. Because you see, if an act passed by Parliament, duly assented to by the president, can be violated in this reckless manner, what it tells you is that these people do not care about the laws of this country. And you see, the law itself anticipated that you could have a very reckless governor of the Bank of Ghana. So if you look at the amended act, subsection 7, it says, quote, where the total of loans, advances, and purchases of treasury bills and securities made under subsection 1 is 5%. That's even when you get to the 5% threshold. The law requires that the governor shall notify the minister and Parliament of the attainment of the limit under subsection 2, and the minister upon notification shall report to Parliament on the remedial measures to be taken.
Have you taken cognizance of the response of the BOG?
You see,
in there clearly, they said Ghana was in a state of some force majeure. And if you take a look at it, the justification is that we had to take a DDEP undertaking done. And of course, even those who had bought government instruments had to be taking some haircut, etc. And so in lieu of that, somebody will say that the BOJ is justified.
That provides no justification. In fact, the law itself anticipated this. So if you look at section 30, the original section 36, it says where there is an emergency, what you should do.
Because it says in the event of any emergency, the
governor, the minister, and the controller must meet. And within 7 days, notify Parliament. They have not done that. If you look at subsection 7, the new subsection 7 in the amendment, it says that even when you want to do that, you are getting to the 5%, quickly notify Parliament. Governor Addison, LC Ado Awaji, and Maxwell Opoku, the 2 deputies, have decided to establish an incestuous relationship with the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration. And the end result is the collapse of the economy. I say the relationship is incestuous because, you see, in the superior wisdom of the makers of the 1992 Constitution, you know what they anticipated? They knew you could have a government or a president that is overbearing. So what they did was to provide what they call functional independence, operational independence for the Bank of Ghana. In fact, if you look at Article 183, it says that the governor of the Bank of Ghana shall enjoy such securities as the justices of the Court of Appeal. So, the wisdom of the makers of the 1992 Constitution recognized that there may come a time that you have a president who is so overbearing. But they wanted to insulate the governor from such an overbearing president, and hence decided to give him security of tenure so that he can do his work independently. Now we have a situation where the Bank of Ghana is telling us that they have declared over 60 billion Ghana cedi losses.
Mainly due to the DDEP.
Now you see, that 60 billion Ghana cedis loss is enough to pay for NAPCO beneficiary for 60 years. 60 years. NAPCO beneficiary for 60 years. You'll be paying them for 60 years. My friend here is a youth organizer of a political party.
Very well so.
He's a youth organizer. Youth employment and others should be of prior interest to him. The reason why government of Ghana was not able to sustain the NAPCO program is because of lack of funds. And we are being told that 60 billion Ghana cedis was given to government of Ghana and more.
Okay.
And with all that amount of money, we are not able to sustain NAPCO. As we speak, government of Ghana is indebted to NAPCO trainees, correct? So where did the 60 billion go?
Beyond that, we owe many areas.
Where is the money?
The second part, we even talk about UK scholarship.
The 60 billion, where is it?
It's in the DDEP.
No. You see, what the DDEP simply means is that, you see, when Bank of Ghana lends to central government central government is supposed to pay the interest and the principal.
Certainly.
Now, central government now comes to you and say, we are unable to pay the interest and principal. So do the DDEP for us. Correct. But we need to know what government of Ghana first used that system for.
At the end of the day, if you clearly take the Bank of Ghana statement, it says that it is important to put the Bank of Ghana's 2022 financial result in proper context with a clear statement of the problem that Ghana faced and the chronology of events since 2019. So the Bank of Ghana is even admitting that the issue started
from government.
Oh, please relax. Now, if you look at the mismatch between revenue inflows and then also expenditure finance in 2020 because of the exceptional things we had to deal with, we're told by COVID, etc. If you look at what the comments have been from, based on the observations from key watchers in academia, the business community, they are saying that the financial system of Ghana has been greatly impaired. Is that a good justification to make?
Well,
because
Roland,
it's not only coming from maybe the NDC.
Roland, I heard my brother and friend rattle the same old chorus,
it is old,
you know, which has become the daily hymn song of the NDC. It is trite and quite predictable every time they whine. And I was listening to Eduji trying to really figure out the exact point he was going to hit the nail, but I never got it. He was just running around the bush like a headless chicken, just running around. You know, it has no direction. It's just running like that. And it has become the modus operandi of the NDC. We are in opposition, so just go on the attack and keep bashing government. But at the end of the day, you end up saying nothing. And that's what the NDC keeps doing. And that's what my friend has done here. If you take the same 36 that my friend quoted, it as amended in 2016, Act 198, it tells you that the governor is not required to report to Parliament. It is the minister. Okay? It is the minister. So the Bank of Ghana has done nothing wrong. And I find it unconscionable that people sit in this country and feel that where the Bank of Ghana can come in and ameliorate the plight of the suffering people, it is wrong. We have made laws for ourselves to govern us as a people, to keep us safe and thriving. If we are hit by serious exogenous factors and we have huge losses in revenue collection, and Bank of Ghana comes in with some liquidity support, you tell me that it is reckless management. They don't understand the meaning of reckless management. You don't understand it. Roland, every government in this country, especially of the Fourth Republic, has received some funding from the central bank.
Well, that's why there's a law amended
You
to
understand?
5% of the
So
previous year.
if you sit here and pretend as though this is the first time something untoward has been done, you have misinterpreted.
Who has said that?
Because in essence, what my brother is trying to do is to paint a certain picture.
No.
You
please,
people
you say,
are those who have
make
recklessly
so
managed the economy.
So you say that the Bank of
saying,
Ghana.
yes.
I think that we all know that. That's why the regulation is
not true that
before
this
the
is the
amendment,
first
it is
time
10%. And
Ghana,
now we have 5%.
you know,
the Bank
the
of
BOG
Ghana is not supposed to exceed that. If you exceed that, there are undertakings that need to be done. That's the reality, is that not? If you flout a regulation, you flout
at the end of the day, the extraordinary circumstances we have gone through, your government didn't even go through that and virtually collapsed. The John Dramani Mahama administration is about the worst we have seen in the history of this country.
Really?
Meanwhile, they haven't gone through the heaviest of the exogenous factors that this present government has had to contend with. But we have tried to keep body and soul together. We have still found a way to ensure that there's fuel in this country. We never had to run to queue to buy fuel. It never happened. This didn't happen by accident. I've seen established countries, so-called.
Do you know
So
That in
called. I was in London.
2015,
I was
please.
in London
Okay,
when
so
I was in queue.
so Mr. Landman, just listen to me.
To buy food.
Do you know
with
that within
friends.
the period that you compare this government's performance to, within that period also, oil prices were skyrocketing. Commodity prices were just on the low.
But if you are dealing with a global pandemic,
are those
where
factors
every
not
economy,
exogenous factors?
where every economy has had to shut, and now every country is looking inward to build out, whatever you do, how to mobilize revenue would be hit. Do you understand the point? So in the trying circumstances that we have gone through.
And again, you are leading to 2020. Is it not the same 2020 that we had funding coming from the IMF, the various Bretton Woods institutions as well?
No, listen.
Is it not because we went on a spending spree?
It's not the spending spree that we have gone
We're giving free to everybody.
No, which free to everybody? The COVID support in the run-up to 2020, it's not just free money. It was business
have you read the
support
special
to people.
COVID audit report conducted by the Auditor General?
Yes, I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen it.
You still whitewash that report?
It's not a whitewash. I'm saying that regardless, all that we have gone through, of course, you needed some liquidity in the system. If people were sitting home, their businesses were collapsing, you just don't sit and fold your arms and say that, we can't do anything about it. You have to find a way to give support. You have to keep the economy alive. You have to keep the systems running. And that's what this government has had to do with collaborations with IMF. The IMF, I'm coming, the IMF, if you read the report, said that they were okay with the explanations that were given. And let me tell you, the IMF did not give the money to a GOG that take and disburse. The IMF had a lot of supervisory control, they now
have supervisory control.
And in fact, even that money,
there's somebody at the Bank of Ghana,
that money, the IMF didn't give it Bank of Ghana to disburse. They were doing the disbursement themselves. All we were doing was providing data, and they were working with the data. Because the IMF also has their own systems that they deal with. So that's why when the report went to them, they didn't come out to say that, no, government didn't do the right thing and the money was
Let's listen to Professor Bokpin. Professor Bokpin puts matters into perspective, and he has some scathing words on how, so far, the current state of the economy is, and how that also puts the Bank of Ghana, its finances, into impairment.
You feel that the law is made for others. Okay. And therefore, in terms of how we respect the law, has some kind of levels. And I agree with our senior economist here. I respect him a lot. It was very clear to me from the third quarter of 2021, and if you check the trajectory, you will see that our posture changed, how we saw government and government policy, especially from the third quarter of 2021. Our conclusion, I wasn't the only person, together with the money guys, Bryce Simmons and the others, that look, Ghana was heading dangerously, that something needed to be done. Okay. And we felt that the optimal time for us to have reached out to the IMF was actually from the third quarter of 2021. You want to look at the fiscal vulnerabilities. You want to look at the measures you had put in place. You want to look at how we monetized COVID, right? I'm saying that we commercialized the virus. Okay, so the abuse and all of that, coupled with 2020 election.
You see,
and so it's about people taking discretion, right?
So you see, my friend here doesn't even understand what he's talking about. In the midst of COVID, the support government gave, right? The support government of Ghana gave to businesses, households and others, didn't come from the BOG support.
But I mentioned that.
Oh, please,
I mentioned
calm
that.
down, stay calm. What government of Ghana did was to go to Parliament for the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, its provisions to be accepted, to allow government of Ghana to withdraw 200 million Ghana cedis from the stabilization fund. At the cedi equivalent, it gave us 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. 600 million of it was used for support for businesses, free food, free water. So the money that was used for that particular engagement was not from the Bank of Ghana support. 2, we had the benefit of $2 billion from the Rapid Credit Facility and the special drawing right. All these monies came to you. You don't even understand what we are talking about. These were money that were given to government of Ghana for the first time. Within one fiscal year, over 30 billion was given to government of Ghana. And so when you say it was not disbursed, what are you talking about? You don't even understand. But you see,
listen, when someone is talking, listen.
The issue is,
I said that it was not given to government to disburse.
Please put section 30 of the Act.
Now, if you look at
it says that total loans, advances, shall not at any time
exceed 5%.
Okay. So it says shall not. So there's a condition there, and this is obligatory.
When
you see,
and exceed 5% of the total revenue
of the previous year fiscal year. Now, listen, if you look at the Bank of Ghana Act, Section
do you have it?
Section 67. Okay. Now, 67, this is what 67 says. Except otherwise provided in this Act, a person A who contravenes a provision of this Act or a regulation or anything prescribed, direction made so and so, or in the Gazette, quote, commits an offense. Commits an offense. So consistently, the governor, the 2 deputies, the board have consistently been contravening the BOG Act. And listen, the Act uses, look, Parliament could have said may. That gives you a discretion. But in this particular instance, the word used is shall, mandatory, obligatory. I mean, this should be so basic. And for the Bank of Ghana governor and the 2 deputies to go on this level of reckless printing of currency to the government of Ghana, there is only one conclusion: impunity, recklessness, because they believe that they are above the laws of this country. And you see, painfully, government of Ghana says, oh, it's actually a write-off. The Public Financial Management Act says the finance minister or anybody cannot write off. This is not a private business or a private loan where you can go to your private bankers and say, I'm unable to service my loan, and for that matter, write it off for me so that I become part of the bad loans of the bank. No. The law, the Public Financial Management Act is specific that when you desire to write off, go back to Parliament. The finance minister had failed to do that. And the available record is the level of impunity and recklessness. My friend here talks about,
he says there's a justification.
And he said justification. What the justification? For the first time, you posted by December 2020, okay, a fiscal deficit of more than 15%, the highest in the whole West Africa. Because in 2020, you had an election to win. And so you are willing to spend beyond what you are budgeted for by 15%, the highest in West Africa. In fact, Nigeria, the largest economy within West Africa, did not do 8% deficit. Nobody did even 10%, double digit. Ivory Coast. Bamia in opposition used to say, anytime NDC is talking about crisis, how come that the crisis left Ivory Coast to come to Ghana? Was there no COVID in Ivory Coast in 2020? Was there no COVID in Ivory Coast? Was there no COVID in Nigeria? Meanwhile, you did 15% fiscal deficit. And that is what the ripple effect is what we are going through today. So it is the reckless election expenditure that is what is causing the problem. It has nothing to do with COVID-19.
Because usual, you see, you are just doing the usual NDC propaganda, which has no place.
Because there was an opportunity.
In grounded fact.
Listen, so the 15% deficit is not fact.
You are just
saying you don't even understand the conversation. And you see,
first of all, you talked about.
Hold on.
Listen.
You see, no, listen.
It's my turn.
You see, at the end of the day, if you look at what the observers do indicate. Professor Bokpin, even in 2019, we had Professor Lord Mensa of the University of Ghana Business School did say that the way our finances were going, and that was even prior to COVID, because COVID had come in 2019, October, recorded in China. Everybody thought it was just a localized virus until by December it went, and then January we had cases in Europe, etc. It is the trickle-down effect of us spending spiraling out of control, whereby 2020 we had to suspend the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Subsequently, the expenditure ballooning because it was also an election year. And that is the reality that we could all face. Now,
no, you are falling for the NDC propaganda.
Let's say which is not true. So let's say that is the NDC propaganda. It cannot also be the propaganda of the economists and then those who tend to observe it.
No, even the recent IMF report, the 181-page IMF report, clearly provided that COVID-19 only exacerbated the prevailing and underlying condition.
Let's come
already,
into the 2022
by 2020, your debt has already become, your public debt has become unsustainable.
So, build up.
You don't really appreciate
you are just running about the bush.
Let me wrap up.
Let him wrap up. I give him a minute.
He is distorting the argument.
Let me wrap up.
Yeah,
you see, let me wrap up.
You are running into areas that are not linked to this particular subject.
You see, just a few days ago, the Ghana Statistical Service had put out there our inflation rate to be almost 43%.
It is past 43.
43, good. Now, if you should sample about 54 countries, even in Africa, the only 2 countries that we have performed better with inflation is Zimbabwe and Sudan. And we know the problem of Zimbabwe. As for Sudan, it's war-torn. These 2 countries. So you cannot tell me that Ghana is so special that we are having to do 42% inflationary, 43% inflationary. Do you know the reason? Because the Bank of Ghana report exposes something quite interesting. You see, when you do a bit of monetary economics, there's something we call the M1 and M2. The M2 is actually money outside, money circulating in the system, but outside the banking system more or less. Now, in 2019, the M2, you see, in 2019, the M2 was just 19 billion Ghana cedis. 19 billion. That's money outside the system, money in circulation. Roland, do you know that as we speak, the M2 is in the region of 32 billion Ghana cedis? So what it means is that money in people's hands, money outside the banking system,
causing the inflationary trends.
which is causing the inflationary rate, is 32 billion. Okay. And now the question you ask yourself is, where is the 32 billion? It's in people's bed, hiding under the beds of people. And that is where the problem is.
Well, we have to go to the United Kingdom as well, because one of the liabilities on government book, please, is that we have students on government scholarship, not only in the UK, and now I've confirmed that elsewhere across the world, who are owed stipends. Now, we're putting their letters of scholarship as well as what the stipends are on the screen for you, and you'll get to know. Now, what is key is that many of these students have had to go through some difficulties. We have them also joining us, and then we'll come and make some. We'll speak to the Registrar of Scholarship as well, Kingsley. Now, do we have any of them joining us? Good morning to you. And they are joining us on anonymity. Good morning.
Good morning, Roland.
Okay. How are you? And if you look at the difficulty you're facing, what is the state of the difficulty? How much fares are you supposed to be paid, and how much is in arrears as a scholarship beneficiary of Ghana?
Thank you very much, Roland, and for this opportunity. I must say that the situation here is very difficult, very, very challenging for us. Some of us, currently as we are here, we are being evicted from our accommodation, okay? Some of us have also, unfortunately, have been reported to the debt collectors. And that is creating so much difficulties for us, and we are unable to even concentrate on our studies. Me personally, I had to be walking to campus 1 hour, 20 minutes in and back 4 times in a week. This is terrible. I mean, it's a situation that I don't wish anybody to find him or herself in. And the government, we're supposed to be paid about 1,000 28 pounds a month, and up to now we've received only 3 months, and that came even in March of this particular year. We are in debt. I mean, the situation is bad. It's not pleasant at all.
I know that we have a lady among us. If you speak to other...
Roland, let me...
You want to continue? Okay.
Let me make this call. Let me make this call. You know, it is very pathetic. Seriously. I don't know whether you can term this one as scholarship. You all know that the definition of scholarship means that helping students who are brilliant but needy. But it is so pathetic that you give scholarship to students to come outside the country, to come and study. Then you leave the students to become like slaves. They are taking us as a laughing stock in the UK over here. I want to know whether His Excellency, our president, is aware of what the student is going through in UK. Is the finance minister is aware of this? Is the foreign affairs minister is aware of all this problem that the students are going through? The most especial thing is that our ladies, the kind of work that they are doing before they can feed, it is very, very bad. It is very, very bad. Is it Roland? You know Ghana is the most respected country in African continent. Have you ever heard about any of the other countries, whether to say Gambia, Togo, even Niger, as they are going through a kind of crisis, that their students are complaining that their government is unable to pay their stipends? Have you ever heard of this thing before? Why is it that every day is Ghana, every year is Ghana, students are complaining?
Are you saying that this is a recurrent problem?
I am telling you, it has been happening from 2017 coming. If you open your phone, the previous student will come, call, and find out they are owing them. Why do you owe students scholarship? Why do you say you owe them in arrears?
Okay.
The question is, if there's no money, why do you give scholarship to students? Let me tell you, let me reveal some things over here to you. Most of Ghanaian students have been going to Home Office UK to beg for money. Look at how they are disgracing Ghana in UK. Okay. As we speak, some students have been handed themselves to the police to get a place to sleep. Some students are sleeping in the library. This is very pathetic.
All right.
Why all this thing is happening?
All right. Now, I know that you're supposed to be having a scholarship secretariat or an office that you have to liaise with. Can I have the next student? Of course, all of them are speaking on anonymity because, please, is it possible that perhaps you haven't gotten in touch with the secretariat that you're supposed to liaise with as students? Hello?
Right now, what I can say is that the only way that the registrar communicates to us is on Zoom. He doesn't even come to the school to see how you are feeling. And I remember, I think last 2 months, they communicated with us on Zoom, telling us that in 2 weeks' time, our stipends will be ready. Rona, the funny thing is that we came last year, 2022, and out of this, they are supposed to give us about 12-month stipends. Only 3 months has given, and most of the students are completing their study on September. Let me tell you, this scholarship that you are talking about, they claim that they have full scholarship in Ghana, preaching here and there, but it doesn't cover plane ticket, visa application. Students have to borrow money, take loans before they could apply for visa and plane ticket.
All right.
And when they come here, the stipend does not come. Come and see how students are struggling, borrowing money to feed.
All right.
Some are owing 7-month rent. What is all this?
Well, so we're trying to have on the line the registrar for the scholarship secretariat, Mr. Kingsley Agyeman, to give us some insight into what the current state of making sure that they pay the students and why they owe the students so many months in arrears, etc. Well, so Kingsley Agyeman will join us very soon. Now, more importantly, what is the scholarship secretariat telling you, or the liaison office in the UK telling you? Can I have somebody answer
Okay.
me? Yes, please.
So usually, the liaison office here in the UK takes instructions from the secretariat in Accra. Okay. So when you approach them or you send them an email, that email, once if there's no concrete response from Accra, there's nothing Nadia they can do here. The only thing she will do is that she will get back to you, or they are working towards it. That's all. Okay, so most of the work is done in Accra until she receives monies or stipends. She's unable to pay stipends, and that still leaves us hanging.
All right. Mr. Kingsley Agyemang, have you joined us?
Hello, Roland.
Yeah, good morning. Please, why is it that you owe the students several months in arrears of their stipends? Students you've given scholarship to, and I'm told they are not only in the UK, apparently.
Thank you very much, Roland, and very good morning to all your cherished listeners. Very interesting, quite intriguing, and must put certain things in perspective. The scholarship liability is a revolving liability, and this is what we make students understand every time. I mean, we inherited about 24 months outstanding from 2017, and we're paying, and when things were good, pre-COVID, we were even paying stipends in advance. By convention, stipends are usually paid quarterly in arrears, which means that when you embark, you have about 3 months to put your things together, then payments will be made. Because you are limiting it to the UK, let me put on record again that stipends globally, apart from the UK and a few in the US, have all been paid up to June this year. Now, let's get into the stipend profile of the UK. And it's rather unfortunate that the people you interviewed spoke on animosity. And because
anonymity. They spoke on anonymity.
Yes. It's quite intriguing they did that, because I believe we're going to have a very good conversation as to whether they are even our students or scholars.
You doubt whether they are your students. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are saying that the individuals we spoke to, sir, please. You are saying that the individuals we spoke to are not your students. Is that an official statement you are making?
I'm saying that I even doubt. So I doubt if they are even our students, because anybody can make representations as to whether they are factual or not. But let's get into the stipend profile of the UK.
All right.
If you look at our standing, you realize that I'm using the median to measure, because it's the best measure of central tendency. There are records. The median mark is about 6 months, which means that it's not 9 months. That doesn't mean that we may not have outliners going to 9 months. But usually you have a peak time of students getting to move in academic year being in September. Usually when they get to the UK, in September, it takes on the average about 2 to 3 months for them to have the necessary accounts open.
All right. And so, Mr. Agyemang, when would they be paid? I think that's the bottom line. When would they be paid?
No, let's not rush it. What I'm saying is that I need to put it in perspective. Then we can get into the nuances. It's a general liability issue that we are talking about here. So when I say that the scholarship liability is a revolving liability, as you may be aware, in the implementation of the 2022 budget, we face a lot of challenges. I mean, the official data makes it very clear that exchange rate, depreciation of the cedi was hovering around 56-54%. What does this mean for the scholarship liability? We also buy the forex, because we have about 80% of our liability being forex. It means that before you implement 2022 budget, you would have had your allocation in 2021.
So when will they be paid, Mr. Agyemang? When will they be paid?
When will they be paid?
Yes, sir.
The Ministry of Finance is working very hard at it. and I'm sure that in due course will be paid. If you listen to the narrative,
Mr. Ajema, what is in
realize
due
that,
course? Just give us maybe it's a 70% processing rate or completion of processing.
So some funds have been released to us and is going through the usual process, but that funds will not be. It's not enough to cater for all outstanding stipends. Some stipends will be paid, and as we move along the year, as government makes funds available, we also send it accordingly.
All right. But you don't have a clear or definite timeline, right?
I'm unable to confirm when we'll clear our outstanding because it's a revolving liability.
All right, sir. We're grateful for your response so far. And
thank you.
For you, the students as well, can you all tell me whether you're students on government scholarship across the UK? Let me hear from all of you, the two of you who spoke.
Of course, Roland, we are students.
Okay. I know that you're students,
here in the UK.
All right. Thank you very much for interacting with us. But you've been on scholarship before. How is it like?
No, I've never been on scholarship.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you were in the UK. You paid?
Yes.
Okay.
I
so
paid
for
my
those, what were your experiences? Which years were you there?
No, I did mine online.
You did online?
Yes, I went and graduated. At Salford University.
Okay.
You know.
So what's the burden on students in the UK who are on government scholarship usually?
So I have come across this particular story quite frequently in the course of my work. If you heard Registrar very well, he said that as at the time we came into office, there was 24 months arrears already lying down, which were unpaid. So we came to clear it. The story about delay in payment has been a recurrent one over the years, not to say that it is good in any way. What I've come to understand with the scholarship is that if you listen to Registrar very well, he said that except for UK and America, most of the other countries, full payment for tuition and stipends is done. When you go to Hungary, Russia, and co., students are not allowed to work. But those in the UK and America, they are given 20 hours a week to work. So there's a certain presupposition that they have some allowance.
So you're saying it is normal
to hold up.
Are you saying it is normal then?
I'm not saying so, but I'm saying that these are some of the calculations. So I know for a fact, if you ask, that's why I also think that it was a little bit unfair to interview them on anonymity, because we needed to know
we needed to protect their identity.
I don't think anybody would go hunting anybody, because we also needed to be sure who they are.
I can tell you on authority, they are students.
Yeah, but their tuition has been paid. Government has not faulted on the tuition.
Okay, but
it's when you fault on the tuition,
stipends have not been paid,
that they are rusticated, which creates more problems. So I want to urge our students there. I've also done a little bit of follow-up. I also know that the registrar and his team are working very hard to ensure that this particular...
he said he doesn't know when it to be paid. It's in the process.
In fact, about some 3 weeks or so, some weeks ago, some amount of money was released to Scholarship Secretariat, out of which they paid the tuition for
he has explained
the
that.
UK.
You're not the registrar. That's why you're not the registrar.
Yes, I follow because of the nature of my work.
National Youth.
Yes.
Okay.
But
no. We're not more speaking on the debt.
Yes.
What do you make of the issue?
Roland, just a minute.
This is your first time here. You are doing this.
He mentioned something about inflation that I wanted to respond to.
When I'm done, you can inflate.
I give you only 3 minutes on this.
But you see, the problem is the most important question was not answered.
When it will be paid?
When it will be paid. Because you see,
he says that they have released money.
No, hold on.
It is going through the system.
We're heading.
You see,
today you're heckling.
These are people who are at the risk of even being, as it were, ejected from where they are staying, if you listen. So clearly, this is a distress call. That's my understanding of the conversation. The registrar wanted to know who these individuals are. I mean, you are dealing with a situation where people can easily be victimized. So I think it's good you protected their identity. It's very good you did
because
that.
They told me that...
I mean, this is the highest level of professionalism that I wanted, and you have done that. Because, you see, the fear is, if you should go out there publicly, you identify the institution, you may not know. You will be singled out and victimized. So protecting the identity is well and good. The other issue that I believe is that, listen, we should plan. If we plan properly, we will not be where we are. You should have an idea, the number of persons on scholarship, how much their tuition fee is, how much they require for the purposes of their, upkeep. If you do that properly, you won't get this kind of problem. Okay. And I think that is a systemic institutional matter that must be resolved. But that said, it does not wrap well with our image as a country. Yes, we agree that the duty bearers have run this economy into a mess. But things that relate to the upkeep of students, there's no money.
Let me read a couple of. I have this one. Seidu,
don't be hypocritical.
You don't have
Don't be
money.
hypocritical.
Let me read some message. Let me read some message.
Before we came into office,
okay,
2017,
your microphones are off. Now let me read some messages. Please, let's go down on the Montero section. Seidu from Salaga says, please ask the MPP man if it's okay that school children have no food to eat, and the aged are dying because of DDEP, just for a new BOG to be built at a whopping 250 million. Now, this one also from says, okay, Stephen Peng from WA, the MPP communicators, rather than noting down the inaccurate points by other panelists, decide to interject. Why that? Kofi Sika says, we were not told that government exceeded their revenue targets in the past years. Again, were we not told? Okay. Again, with COVID-19, they had so much inflows to help keep our books well balanced. Amoda Hamidu says, why is BOG spending much money in these hard times to put up a new building? And then also Sham says, the MPP guy should be factual, not dishonest to the facts. And I have Musa Abatwa, who says, the more government communicators try to explain the recklessness by the BOG, the more they are making the situation worse. Well, we're telling you we have to cash out as well. And so we'll do that later. Well, thank you for watching us subsequently. We're taking a break. We'll be right back with the latest.